This one is a 6-month 1976, and I've got a lot of story to tell here. Isn't she a doozy? An absolute beauty. Karan owns this one. We're going to go into detail about the build and everything. This is Karan's FJ40. Now, Karan is also married to Grant. Grant and Karan have been friends of Mr. Landcruiser and myself personally for many, many years. A little story back when I started in the wrecking game at home many years ago. I got dobbed in for having too much junk in a house yard, and I needed to take my little hobby, little business somewhere else, and I decided to go full time with Mr. Landcruiser. And because of Grant and Karan allowing me to go onto their property and ditch all my crap on their 5 acres, it was sort of the birth of Mr. Landcruiser itself in the very early days. And I stayed with them for quite some time until I even got kicked out of there by the neighbour because of all of my crap. So good friends now. This Karan and Grant are a 40 series family. They own 4 of these. I have done a walk around on one. This is number 2. I've got 2 to go when we get to it, but I've toured with these people. I've been in the high country in Victoria. Thanks to Ocker, we do the long drive for a drought. We haven't missed a long drive for a drought since its very first one together. I nearly pulled out of one, but Grant swore at me and I made sure I went. So we've done a lot of touring, a lot of camping, even smaller trips. The scene is quite a family, the 40 series scene, which leads me to this car. Now, Karan herself has been ill, and because she's been ill and it's such a family community, the community has got together and thought, how can we cheer Karan up? And the community, the 40 series Landcruiser community, especially the Queensland Club, classic Landcruiser Club of Queensland, a lot of the guys and girls got together and this was built. Now this is, we've wrecked nicer cars than this one in its day. This was sort of West Queensland, out past Dalby Way. There's a place called Bell. This comes from Bell in Queensland here. And Grant was saying that, I've seen the photos, it was just a piece of junk, but he was saying that the car was chockers full of rubbish. It was in someone's paddock on their front property and they just stuffed stuff in it. It was just out there to rot and waste. But Grant knows his cars. Grant went out and had a look and found that the bones of this one were really good. It was ugly. It was just internally, externally, it just looked like junk, but decided that it's structurally good, so let's build it. And then that's where the build started. Let's build a sneaky present without Karan knowing, and a little surprise. So the community came together, and I'll mention a few people a bit later, but it was a lot of people came together. Volunteers, businesses, all put their hand up. People from other states put their hand up. They gave to the cause, and they also were there for the reveal as well, which was really fantastic to see the community come together. So this is in its original colour, as the photos show. This is a Mustang grey, a more modern Mustang grey, and bloody hell, isn't it, with the white trims everywhere, it just works a real treat. Now we'll go through it. It's got, up the front, it's got the classic ARB bar, which is quite funny. In the day, Grant had the top and he was looking for the bottom bar, the bottom piece. We had one in the scrap bin. We quickly got it out of the scrap bin, pretended it was on the shelf for sale, and instead of getting $4 for it, I'm sure we charged him $50 for it. So he's put those 2 pieces together, welded it up, just like the rest of the car. Very handy guy. He's restored the bar. We've got the LED lights up the front. If you drive one of these at night, you know that the original lights aren't too fancy. We go through this, no stone has been left unturned, from things like Japanese mirrors, badges, everything, just everything's gone through, all the weather strips, all the seals. We'll go into the bonnet and reveal that soon, but freshened up engine, gearbox, axles, everything's been gone through on this one. The flares are brand new. Now the rear flares were on it and they're in good condition, so they've come up a real treat and coloured in with the rest of it. The wheels we have, this is quite cool, we have period correct rims on this, but I really dig down here. We've got the Selectro hubs, and you will see them in a lot of like the 1960s 40 Series Landcruisers. So most of them are actually a course spline. This is a 1976 with the more modern CV. So yeah, it's just different to see them on this year car, which are very rare as well. Behind me at the back of the vehicle, you'll notice the tyre carrier's the old style, and it's on there. We've got, I assume what's a reverse light. It might be for camping as well. We've got a little LED light on the back, and it's got the bumperettes. My favourite, it's got the lift up rear door as well. I do notice there's aftermarket struts in there, so any guys doing restos, there's antlers when you can't get the old chrome ones anymore. I think we've pretty much covered the outside. I'll come back to it if we haven't, because I'm excited about popping the bonnet open. Okay, look at this. Here's one of its little secrets. We'll go through it all. But this one has the 253, and when Grant found it, it had a 253, but not this engine. So she was stuffed. So Grant's friend Louis had found, or had looked after Grant, and they'd sorted out another 253. So this thing's already got the adapters ready to go. And a little bit about this one, if we have a look at the fan shroud, that's actually fiberglass. Grant was saying that it came with that shroud. So somebody's custom made a shroud for the previous engine. So that was pretty handy then setting up the cooling, moving forward with the new engine. Grant and Karan are Landcruiser people. I've said multiple times, and so are their whole family. They got Aaron, their son, to strip the engine down, and it was a really good engine, so they've gone through and put a new gasket seal kit throughout the whole thing, painted it up. This engine came with those headers. What it didn't come with is, if you look at, it's got the Edelbrook manifold. Now, I was saying earlier, there's a whole heap of junk in the back. That was laying in the back. So Grant's gone and had all that cleaned up and put on, running the Holly. A few other things underneath. Their friend Trevor. Now Trevor, I'll say Trevor Jones, also one of the big names in making this happen. Now this was a surprise for Karan. So Trevor and his wife Mel hid the car at their property out Jimboomba Way, and this is where the community would come together at Trevor's place and build this whole car without Karan knowing. So Trevor put in a lot of man hours, and he did the cooling for the power steering, custom made that to go in. I'm looking, that's pretty much it. We have got the old horn under there for entertainment, and we know what this is. It's a compressor, so that leads inside. This thing's got aircon as well. It's got the 253, leads into the aircon. I said that Grant rebuilt the box, or had the box rebuilt. I believe he did it himself, and that's a 5-speed. So now it's got fresh 253, a 5-speed in there. It's got the aircon. He's done 75 series backing plates on this one. So it's got the handbrake now removed to the rear. It didn't have in 1976. And the front is now disc brake, and they didn't have that in 1976. So that's the running gear on this one. We better go and have a look inside. Actually, don't worry about the paint job. I'm not destroying anything. I'll pop it down here and let you know that, bit of a sales pitch. That's a little genuine factory part up there just to protect the paint job. And finally they've arrived. Mr. Landcruiser, just jump on our website. They are now in stock, genuine. Those that want to look after their paint and care about the car, gives you a bit more room under there. They're in stock. Let's go and have a look inside. Okay, while I was under the bonnet, one thing I didn't point out, this thing's got factory power steer as well, so that box has gone in there. And again, a testament to the community. I'm going to forget a lot of names here, so I do apologise, but I remember a few things as we go. The Cavalot family, the most beautiful people you'll meet, they set up the power steer box to make this a lot easier to drive. Now the interior, first thing you do is open the door and you see a sticker saying fire breather. Now that's what Grant calls his lovely wife Karan, the fire breather, so they had to have the complimentary sticker there so she knows that's her side. moving into the vehicle. Now 76, this is a fuel tank inside. The shorties have this cover over, Utes didn't. And they have done an immaculate job. Now if, for the guys that really know this stuff, they'll know this dash pad doesn't belong on this model. And the guys that know even a little bit more about them know that you can't just put them on there. So I believe this one was Trevor Jones. He did the hot work to put the bracketry in there from a later model onto this dash. So now it's got the dash pad, and they've got the radio. I'll move up to the console. They've got the radio in the console. So now we've got the factory radio blank, and you think those radio blanks in the day were for the guy that probably didn't want a stereo, or maybe couldn't, the farmer or whomever that couldn't afford a stereo. You would just get a complimentary blank. Now they're really well sought after because a lot of them went in the bin or what have you, so that's a very cool part. I did mention the aircon, and this is the factory nip-on Denso. There's a lot of debate, oh that's dealer fitted. Yeah, the dealer put it in there, but the cabs have all the little divots in them before they even make it to Australia, so the dealer knows where to put them. So it was always a factory option to have the nip-on Denso fitted if you choose it when it came out here. So that's all factory on the interior. And then moving from the front floor to the rear floor is an aftermarket vinyl, and Hendra Motors supplied an aftermarket vinyl floor, more of the community coming together, and they also supplied some new seat belts for this one up to the roof. Now the front and rear consoles came with it, so we'll start with the front one, and it is housing a UHF, a stereo, it's got a shelving, and check out, it's got little lights just on switches, his and her lights, little pilot lights. The rear console has some speakers, more shelving, and that's sockets up in the console. When we move down, there's sockets everywhere. SIGGI sockets, USB sockets, Anderson plugs. There's a dual battery system inside the car, and on the passenger side, that's really well set up. It's running a red arc system as well. So that leads to the console, which it runs a fridge. That's a Brass Monkey fridge in the front. Very cool for your ham sandwich and maybe a couple of cold drinks. Next to that is a custom handbrake frame. Now you put that console in there, and that, with the fact that this model car didn't have a handbrake on the floor, you had it in the dash, but Grant's gone and changed the backing plates. So Grant's custom made a just the bracketry to hold a later model handbrake system in there, 5-speed. Now this is quite cool. Grant was saying that he's got the 75 series 5-speed. It's still the H55F, which we all put in our cars. We've all got to move the holes. But because of where the engine and the bell housing and everything sit, he didn't touch the floor at this one. The gear sticks popped straight up through, and so no modifications there. I really dig on this one. Now that it's a 5-speed, he's upgraded the dash instruction plate to a 5-speed one. That's definitely an aftermarket thing for the 40s. Let me have a quick scan. I think I've mentioned everything. We do have, now these are a seat cover on the custom, just a seat cover on the XR6 seats. So they've coloured in the door cards, and don't they look really nice as well. That's the interior. Let's go outside. That's it. It has just come such a long way since it was done. I'll mention a couple more people. Billy McKinnon, McKinnon's Cruisers, responsible for a lot of the hot work, the new floor, a lot of the hot work, and Greg Barnes. Now Greg's also a 40 series enthusiast. He tours, lugs a caravan, goes on the long drive for a drought. So another enthusiast that did paint and a lot of the hot work as well. Now, I don't mean to forget anyone out, but I can't name 40 or 50 people. There was guys and girls giving up their weekends and free time. There was guys and girls donating parts, all to the cause, to build this beautiful car for Karan, to lift her spirits, and boy, did it do that. The reveal for this thing was a fantastic weekend at Trevor and Mel Jones's place. It was just the community coming together And guess what? We talk cars and 40s all weekend. I don't think we changed the subject once. Now that's it, future plans. What are they going to do with it? Well, we've got the long drive for a drought coming up, and this is only doing part of the journey because again, Karan and Grant own 4 of these things. They're choosing the one to do the touring in. Might be a little bit more equipped. One of Grant's other cars has that many spare parts and is that decked out with camping gear that they probably finished the trip together in that. Because after the long drive for a drought, we're going to do the Simpson Desert, Uluru, Mount Dare, all that together, a group of us, and do that extra part of the desert together. Just can't wait. So they'll leave the shiny one at home. Now, if you want to see this one or any of Grant and Karen's car, all 4 of them, all 4 of their cars are going to be at Clex. So the 7th of October, the Caboolture Showgrounds, if you don't already know, a good 300 of these cars and 60 series. This one's going to be on display at Clex in the crowd, probably towards the front. Grant will get there early on the Friday. It opens on Saturday, so come and say hello to the owners and put your sticky fingerprints all over it. This one is a 6-month 1976 FJ40.